Shalom. What if the absolute solution to your financial stress isn't about grinding harder at your job, but about an ancient, spoken secret safeguarded behind closed doors for more than 3 millennia? There is a sacred Hebrew verse, a profound declaration anchored deep in Torah truth, that generations of Jewish households have turned to whenever economic drought threatened to destroy their peace. It is a highly specific psalm, whispered carefully through the ages, spoken with an exact cadence, at a highly strategic hour, fueled by a fiercely targeted intention. And in this video I am pulling back the curtain to reveal every hidden mechanism of this tradition. Why? Because your presence here at this exact moment is absolutely no accident. Welcome to Abraham's Wealth Secrets, the space where we decode mystic Torah insights, profound Kabbalistic strategies, and age-old Hebrew abundance blueprints that have secured generational wealth for countless families. But before we unlock this powerful sequence, I need you to search your heart honestly. Have you ever found yourself trapped in a relentless cycle where, despite your absolute best efforts, your wealth simply evaporates into thin air? You grind daily. You sacrifice your sleep. You play strictly by the rules. Yet, when the month draws to a close, your accounts are completely drained. Routine obligations devour your hard-earned income. Surprise bills ambush you from the shadows. It feels like an invisible force is actively siphoning away your stability. Perhaps you have cried out to the heavens. Perhaps you've desperately asked the Creator, why does my life feel like an endless uphill battle? Why does my hardest push only leave me tumbling further backward? If those words resonate with your current reality, lean in and absorb this crucial truth. You are not suffering from laziness. You are not the victim of divine punishment. You are not operating under a curse. Rather, there is a subtle disturbance in the unseen spiritual environment of your household that is actively intercepting the exact blessings already destined for your hands. Within our rich Jewish heritage, we embrace a holy principle known as Parnassa. Parnassa translates to your ultimate sustenance. It is the divine current of livelihood that the Creator directs toward every breathing entity. The sages of the Talmud reveal a staggering reality regarding this flow. They decree that your exact financial allotment for the entire coming year is strictly calculated and sealed during the high holy days, between Rosh, Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. Think about the magnitude of that statement. Your economic prosperity has already been designated. It is currently documented in the celestial realms, and it has your name boldly stamped across it. But here is the profound hook that will shift your entire perspective forever. Simply because a blessing is assigned to you does not automatically guarantee it will successfully arrive. Imagine a massive reservoir of water connected to a complex plumbing system. The source is overflowing with abundance. The water is eager to rush downward. But if the primary conduit is choked with debris, absolutely nothing can pass through. You open the valve completely, yet you are left with a miserable, frustrating drip. This perfectly illustrates the spiritual mechanics at play when chronic financial distress haunts a family's dwelling. The abundance absolutely exists. The divine promise is undeniably real, yet an invisible obstruction is choking the vital artery between the heavens and your wallet. Fortunately, for over 3,000 years, Jewish sages have possessed the precise blueprint to shatter that exact blockage. This isn't achieved through convoluted, costly spells. It isn't about bizarre, shadowy rituals. It is activated through consecrated speech, through one highly specific psalm vocalized in a revolutionary manner, during a highly strategic window of time, armed with unbreakable, focused intention. Allow me to illuminate this ancient technology by sharing the exact narrative that permanently shifted my own understanding. It is the powerful account of Miriam. Miriam was a resilient widow within my congregation. After the tragic, abrupt loss of her husband, she was left to raise 3 growing children inside a cramped apartment, situated in a rapidly gentrifying, increasingly unaffordable neighborhood. Miriam exhausted herself working dual shifts. She scrubbed floors throughout the daylight hours and balanced accounting ledgers for local shops late into the midnight hours. Despite this grueling schedule, every single month ended in a terrifying deficit. I vividly recall her confessing to me once, "Rabbi, it feels as though my purse has a bottomless tier. I deposit my wages, and they simply vanish into the ether. I never indulge in frivolous spending. I rigidly avoid all worldly luxuries, yet the resources evaporate right through my fingertips." Then one fateful evening, Miriam sat down with an elderly matriarch from our local synagogue. This revered woman was well into her 9th decade. She had navigated through unimaginable historical traumas and periods of devastating, crushing scarcity, yet, in the twilight of her life, she radiated an aura of profound, quiet majesty. She wasn't a billionaire by modern Wall Street metrics, but she lived entirely free from lack. Her core needs were consistently met, and she miraculously always possessed a surplus to share generously with those in distress. Desperate for answers, Miriam leaned in and asked, "What is your ultimate secret to this peace?" The elder stateswoman offered a warm, knowing smile. "Each morning, before the dawn breaks the horizon," she shared, "I intimately recite the 23rd Psalm. However, I refuse to read it the way the masses do. I do not treat it as a soothing piece of poetry. I do not view it as a tragic eulogy for the dead. I weaponize it as a binding legal declaration. I proclaim it as though the Almighty Himself is standing right beside my kitchen table, and I am actively reminding both Him and my own soul of His unbreakable covenant to permanently sustain me. Right now, a skeptical thought might be crossing your mind. Psalm 23. Are you serious? The whole world knows Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. How could something so incredibly common be the ultimate key? And that, my friends, is exactly where the trap lies. Overexposure has utterly diluted the breathtaking potency of this passage for the average person. They passively listen to it at gloomy burials. They glance at it on cheap sympathy cards. They hear it recited melodramatically in cinema. As a result, humanity has entirely lost the spiritual frequency required to comprehend the massive legal claim it is actually making. Allow me to decode what the Jewish mystical tradition truly perceives when we engage this holy text. We begin with the first sacred mechanism, the uncompromising decree of celestial provision. The opening phrase of this psalm, in its original, uncorrupted Hebrew tongue, states, Adonai roi lo exer. We casually translate this as, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." But we must deeply examine that specific Hebrew term exer. It does not loosely translate to a mere desire or want. It specifically translates to severe lack. It signifies an absolute deficiency. It represents the very spirit of crushing poverty itself. King David, the legendary sovereign who began his journey as an obscure sheep herder, was not penning a soft, lullaby-style verse here. He was actively filing a binding legal injunction within the supreme courts of the cosmos. He was fiercely establishing, because the creator of the universe serves as my personal guide, the entity of poverty holds absolutely zero legal jurisdiction over any aspect of my existence. Can you grasp the earth-shattering magnitude of that stance? This is millions of miles away from fragile, wishful thinking. It has absolutely nothing to do with modern toxic positivity. This was declared by a hardened warrior who had previously existed as a hunted outcast, taking shelter in desolate, rocky caverns without a penny to his name, yet choosing to invoke a universal spiritual law that he anchored himself to every waking moment. It was this exact vibrational alignment that propelled him from the muddy pastures straight to an opulent, golden throne. And this brings us to the precise behavioral shift that the elderly matriarch passed down to Miriam. You must never just scan these words quietly in your mind. You are strictly required to project them audibly within your living space, standing firmly upright on your own 2 feet, specifically before the morning sun crests the horizon. Why is this pre-dawn timing so utterly critical? Because the Zohar, the crown jewel of Kabbalistic revelation, explicitly dictates that the concluding hours of the night, just prior to daybreak, represent the precise moment when the celestial gates are unlocked and at their absolute widest. It is the period of peak cosmic receptivity to the authentic cries of those seeking divine intervention. It is the hallowed window when the Creator intimately leans closer to the earth to hear us. Miriam initiated this transformative ritual the very next morning. She forced herself awake while the world was still pitch black. She planted her feet on the linoleum of her tiny kitchen, and she vocalized Psalm 23 with immense vibrating power. She didn't scream, nor did she timidly whisper. She spoke with the resonant authority of someone who deeply believed the reality of every single syllable. She later confided in me that before that very first sunrise was over, a profound internal realignment occurred, an oppressive, suffocating weight she had dragged around for decades miraculously evaporated from her shoulders. And before that initial week concluded, a former employer, a client she assumed was gone forever, contacted her entirely out of the blue, proposing a new contract that compensated her at exactly double her previous hourly rate. Within a single 30-day cycle, her entire economic landscape had been completely rewritten. Was this a display of sorcery? Categorically, no. Within the framework of authentic Jewish theology, we do not entertain the concept of magic. We operate strictly on the principle of alignment. When you project consecrated Torah syllables armed with unshakable conviction and laser-focused intent, you seamlessly synchronize your personal frequency with the broadcast of divine, limitless supply. You aggressively clear the clogged plumbing. You demolish the unseen barricades, and suddenly, the precise fortune that was legally deeded to you from the beginning, that was desperately trying to locate you, can finally surge into your earthly reality. This brings us to the second sacred mechanism, the banquet prepared directly in your line of sight. Now I need your absolute undivided focus for this next revelation, because buried deep within the text of Psalm 23 lies a highly specific sentence that functions as the ultimate skeleton key for obliterating financial stagnation. And tragically, the vast majority of humanity sprints right past it without a shred of comprehension regarding the explosive power it actually contains. The crucial sentence reads, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." When the average mind processes this line, it instantly defaults to visions of physical protection against mortal adversaries, jealous co-workers, bitter rivals, or those plotting their downfall. But the trained Kabbalistic eye extracts a fundamentally different, infinitely deeper truth from this exact phrasing. According to the ancient masters of Jewish mysticism, there exist hostile, unseen spiritual entities whose sole purpose is to actively combat your Parnassa, to relentlessly sabotage your destined stream of wealth. These entities stand boldly inside the heavenly tribunal, vehemently arguing that your financial harvest must remain permanently suspended. They eagerly highlight your past blunders, your moments of paralyzing fear, and your temporary lapses in spiritual trust. They build a devastating prosecuting case, designed to legally block you from accessing the prosperity God has already deposited into your account. But pay close attention to the sheer brilliance embedded within David's decree. The king does not pray, "Please eradicate all my attackers, and only then serve me my feast." Instead, he boldly asserts, "You prepare a table before me right in the direct presence of my enemies." The adversarial forces do not pack up and leave. The harsh accusations do not magically silence themselves. The daily grinding challenges do not instantly dissolve. Yet the Almighty defiantly lays out the banquet anyway. He sets it up right there, squarely in the epicenter of the chaotic storm opposing you. Do you fully register how this applies to your current crisis? It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you are absolutely not required to wait for your circumstances to become flawless before you can step into your appointed wealth. It guarantees that the Creator can radically enrich you while you are still navigating the darkest trenches of difficulty. It dictates that the towering stack of past due notices, the massive debt on your credit profile, and the suffocating financial stress jolting you awake at 3 a.m. Absolutely none of these factors possess the authority to disqualify you from claiming the abundance the heavens have already plated for you. Therefore, when your morning recitation brings you to this specific verse, you must immediately pause, shut your eyes tightly, and engineer a vivid mental image of a massive, ornate dining table materializing right inside your living room. Envision an opulent, overflowing spread loaded with absolutely every resource you could ever require. See massive financial breakthroughs, sudden, lucrative career shifts, vital assistance parachuting in from entirely unpredicted sources, and multiple streams of revenue flooding toward you from angles you never even considered. Visualize this grand feast being meticulously arranged for you, while every negative energy, doubt, and spiritual barrier that has historically starved you is bound, gagged, and forced to witness your elevation in total, agonizing helplessness. Once this image is locked in your mind, declare with sheer force, "This boundless table undeniably belongs to me. It was custom built for my life by the Creator himself, and absolutely no entity, neither in the celestial realms nor on this physical earth, retains the power to confiscate it from my grasp." I assure you, this is not a fluffy positive thinking exercise. This is not a trendy, new age manifestation hack. This is an elite, battle-tested Hebrew prosperity doctrine, firmly planted in over 3 millennia of unfiltered Torah revelation and mystical application. We now arrive at the third sacred mechanism, activating the pipeline through radical generosity. I must implore you to absorb this final, crucial element, because everything we have discussed up to this minute will only achieve its maximum life-altering velocity when you successfully integrate this foundational rule. And if I am being completely transparent with you, this is the exact intersection where even the most devout, spiritually disciplined individuals fail catastrophically. There is a profound sequence hidden within Zohar that literally brought me to a standstill when my eyes first scanned the ancient text decades ago. It reveals that the divine transmission of blessing operates identically to a rushing river. If a roaring river lacks a downstream exit, its forward motion violently halts. It pools up. It becomes foul and stagnant. However, when that body of water secures an unrestricted, wide-open outlet, its current intensifies, flowing with unprecedented speed, ferocity, and sheer volume. What does this ancient metaphor mean in practical terms? It establishes that the paramount secret to unlocking a massive financial influx is mastering the art of outward flow first. You do not wait to give until you possess a comfortable surplus. You do not delay your generosity until after the windfall has safely cleared your bank account. You initiate the flow beforehand. You distribute resources when it aggressively defies all human logic. You pour out precisely when your own tank feels dangerously close to empty. In our sacred Hebrew tongue, this highly targeted action is called tzedakah. In Western culture, it is loosely and poorly translated as charity, but let me be explicitly clear. Tzedakah is completely divorced from the concept of charity. The word is birthed from the root tzedek, which rigidly translates to absolute justice and righteous duty. When you execute an act of tzedakah, you are not merely being a sweet, benevolent person doing an optional good deed. You are actively enforcing a mandate of cosmic justice. You are physically repairing the intended, uninterrupted circulation of divine capital throughout the Creator's physical matrix. The Talmud carefully documents the historical account of a deeply revered man named Binyamin Hatzadik, which translates to Benjamin the Righteous. He bore the heavy responsibility of managing the communal support treasury for his local village during an era characterized by a brutal, unforgiving drought. A desperate, starving widow approached his door, trailing 7 malnourished children behind her. Tragically, the communal fund was scraped entirely bare. There was absolutely zero public capital remaining to distribute. Yet, Binyamin could not bear to reject this weeping mother and her fading offspring. Driven by righteous obligation, he liquidated his own personal reserves, handing over every single private coin he possessed to his name. He willfully emptied himself completely to ensure this shattered family could survive. A short time later, Binyamin contracted a terrifying illness. He was actively hovering at death's door. The Talmud reveals that the angelic court immediately convened before the Almighty's throne, aggressively pleading, Master of the universe, your own laws dictate that rescuing a solitary human life is the spiritual equivalent of saving an entire galaxy. Binyamin single-handedly preserved a widow and her 7 youths, that is 8 distinct lives, 8 entire universes. Can the scales of justice possibly permit such a man to perish young? In a flash of divine intervention, the lethal decree was shredded. He was instantly granted an additional 22 years of vibrant life. But the ancient text does not stop at his miraculous physical healing. It explicitly highlights that his entire economic reality was permanently and radically transformed. He didn't just survive and scrape by. He ascended into staggering, multi-generational opulence. Why? Because in the moment he chose to drain his own reservoir to zero, he inadvertently carved out the widest, most cavernous spiritual aqueduct imaginable, giving the heavens massive room to pour back into his reality. This is the explosive, energetic core that elevates Psalm 23 to its deepest, most devastating level of power. When King David exclaims, "My cup runs over," he is absolutely not celebrating a mediocre, break-even lifestyle. He is triumphantly declaring a state of such extreme overabundance that the wealth cannot be contained, violently spilling over the brim to elevate everyone in his orbit. And mark my words, the cup will only ever overflow after you have proven your willingness to tilt your vessel and pour into the life of someone else. Here is the complete, unbreakable sequence. This is the exact, unedited architecture of the sacred practice, precisely as dedicated Jewish households have guarded and executed it across generations of history. It is vital that you follow every single micro-step carefully. Step 1. The nighttime preparation. Tonight, before you allow your eyes to drift into sleep, locate a physical denomination of currency. The exact numerical value is entirely irrelevant, no matter how small. Isolate it carefully within a small envelope or a designated box. This sum officially becomes your tzedakah, your physical trigger for opening the channel. As your hand sets it aside, you must forcefully declare out loud, I am actively clearing the supernatural channel. I am making massive physical room for what the Creator has already prepared and allocated for my life. Step 2. Rise before the dawn. You must wake up before the sun crests the horizon. Stand solidly in your home, whether in your kitchen, your living room, or anywhere that feels energetically correct. Open your text to the 23rd Psalm and read it audibly from the beginning to the end. Do this slowly, deliberately. Demand that every word lands with heavy weight and genuine intention. Step 3. The first declaration, the moment your lips form the opening verse. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Bring your recitation to a complete halt. Look up and confidently announce, the spirit of poverty holds absolutely zero authority within this home. Financial lack has been permanently stripped of its legal right in my life. God is my shepherd, and I shall not want. Step 4. The table vision. As you progress and reach the critical verse, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Pause once again and seal your eyes shut. See that breathtaking dining table set before you in your mind. Watch it covered with unrelenting abundance, massive provision, and overwhelming blessing. Then loudly decree, this magnificent banquet is mine. It was prepared specifically for me, and absolutely no force can remove what God has set before me. Step 5. The overflowing cup. When you arrive at the famous words, my cup runs over, physically reach out and place your hand firmly over the tzedakah envelope you prepared the night before. Feel the currency beneath your palm and declare, my reservoir overflows because I deliberately choose to pour out for others. As I release this seed, God exponentially multiplies what flows back to me. Step 6. The covenant declaration. As you approach the concluding verse, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Articulate it slowly, and know with absolute, complete conviction that you are not merely reciting ancient, dusty words. You are actively aligning yourself with an ironclad covenant that is older than any modern economy, infinitely stronger than any global recession, and far more dependable than any financial system ever engineered by human hands. You are plugging directly into the ultimate source of all true wealth, not the flimsy, fleeting wealth chased by the world, but the eternal equity possessed by the one who created the earth and absolutely everything in it. Now, allow me to interlock these pieces together. Because it is crucial, you realize these 3 keys are not separate, isolated tasks. They are 3 distinct threads braided into a single unbreakable rope. The first thread is declaration. You project Psalm 23 out loud because spoken words contain actual, atomic divine creative power. God spoke the entire universe into its physical existence. And when you bravely echo His sacred words back to Him with genuine faith, you are actively participating in the act of creation itself. You are mathematically formulating the required spiritual conditions for massive provision to flow directly into your physical life. The second thread is vision. You actively see the table being prepared in your favor. You hold that image clearly in your mind and heart. Our revered sages document in the Talmud that the true residence of a human being is exactly where their deepest, most dominant thoughts dwell. If your mental theater is constantly broadcasting images of poverty and lack, you are physically living in that nightmare reality long before the bills even arrive in the mail. But when your thoughts are anchored firmly on the lavish feast the Creator has already set, you are successfully seated at that table in the spiritual realm, and the physical world has no choice but to eventually align with that spiritual blueprint. The third thread is action. You physically give tzedakah. You violently open the channel. You provide undeniable proof, both to heaven and to yourself, that your trust in the Almighty is genuine enough to comfortably release what you currently have. Knowing He wants to pour infinitely more back into your life, declaration, vision, action. When these three forces work in unison, anchored deeply in 3 millennia of Torah wisdom and Kabbalistic teaching, they are radically more powerful than any financial strategy, any complex investment formula, or any economic master plan the world has ever produced. Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, resolutely states that the entire world stands on 3 massive pillars: on Torah, on worship, and on acts of loving kindness. When you read Psalm 23 with a pure, genuine faith, you successfully activate all 3 of these pillars simultaneously. The psalm itself is Torah. Reading it with sincere, focused intention is your worship, and giving your tzedakah is your ultimate act of loving kindness. You are momentarily balancing the weight of your existence on all 3 ancient columns at once. And that is precisely the undeniable reason why this practice has survived and thrived for thousands of years across every conceivable form of hardship the Jewish people have ever faced. I have personally watched individuals practice this and receive a totally unprompted phone call that exact same day, handing them an opportunity they could never have anticipated. I have watched crushing financial burdens permanently lift. I have seen stagnant businesses that were actively failing suddenly receive a massive flood of eager new clients and customers. I have seen desperate families who were barely surviving suddenly find rich provision arriving from completely illogical directions. Now, hear me clearly. I am not promising a fantasy where money will appear from thin air. That is not how God works, and it grossly violates what Torah teaches. But I am promising you, with every ounce of my personal experience, and fortified by the full monumental weight of this ancient tradition behind me, when you successfully align your words, your vision, and your physical actions with these elite divine Torah principles, the concrete blockages will absolutely break, the channel will forcefully open, and the exact capital that was always meant to be yours, that was perfectly allocated to you before this year even began, will start flowing toward you with the unstoppable power of a river when the dam is finally removed. So, I am issuing a direct, uncompromising challenge to you right now, tonight. Do not sleep before you set aside your tzedakah. Tomorrow morning, before the dawn breaks the sky, stand tall in your home and broadcast Psalm 23 out loud. Speak the aggressive declarations. See the banqueting table. Violently unblock the channel. And then immediately write in the comments section below, "My Parnassa is flowing." When you declare it publicly, you permanently seal it. You set the massive gears into motion. You establish a tangible witness to what the Creator is already preparing to execute in your financial life. And if someone you deeply love has been silently carrying the agonizing weight of financial struggle on their shoulders, Do not keep this a secret. Share this video with them today. Sometimes a single fragment of ancient wisdom arriving at exactly the perfect moment possesses enough power to completely redirect the entire course of a person's life. If today's deep dive has successfully opened your heart to the raw, untapped power of ancient Hebrew Psalms and authentic Jewish prosperity wisdom, please subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell so you never miss another elite Torah wealth teaching from Abraham's Wealth Secrets. Next week, I will expose the highly guarded ancient Kabbalistic practice known as Havdalah, and I will break down exactly how this mystical Saturday night ritual has been leveraged by Jewish families for centuries to electromagnetically attract staggering abundance and intense financial blessing into the new week ahead. Until then, I leave you wrapped in the ancient blessing that Jewish mothers have fiercely spoken over their families for generations. May the absolute sovereign who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, overwhelm you with Parnassa Tova, a pure, good, and aggressively abundant livelihood. May the walls of your home be filled with profound shalom, your dining table buckle under the weight of plenty, and while your heart rest in the complete unshakable knowledge that you are fiercely protected and provided for, today, tomorrow, and always. Baruch atah Adoni, Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, Lord our God, absolute King of the universe. Trust the ancient mysteries, speak the consecrated words. Open the channel and step boldly forward into the staggering abundance that has been patiently waiting for you all along. Shalom.